So I welcome you all to this session of our video lecture classes. Till now you have seen we have covered much of the classes on your basic Rankine cycle and how to the mode of improvisations, the reheat cycle, the regenerative cycle, the reheat and regenerative cycles. So what are these modifications or how these modifications are able to give you higher efficiency that we have seen. In the continuing section we will take another control volume, that is a steam turbine. So we will go for analysis of steam turbine. Okay, move here. Steam turbine. I will start it from this Rankine cycle where it is being located. This boiler, and here this will be steam turbine. From exit of this or the extract from the steam turbine, it will be communicated to condenser. Then from this condenser the pressure will be increased from this condenser level to this boiler level with the help of a pump. Today or in this 2 or 3 lectures we will concentrate upon this control volume, your steam turbine. A thorough analysis of steam turbine we will cover. So what is the input to the steam turbine? The input to the steam turbine is high pressure superheated steam, and the extract, and here you will see what it is going. It will be, the pressure is being reduced, it will be low pressure saturated liquid, saturated vapor, and very less negligible velocity, this is the exit condition of the steam, and we extract some of the work output. So you see what are the conversions. Here we have to add heat in case of your boiler, and ultimately this high pressure superheated steam, this means this high energy content or high heat energy is converted to effective mechanical work output. So we can call it with no error that a steam turbine is a heat engine. It is a heat engine. And you can see, if we go back to the history of heat engine, this is the oldest heat engine. Before IC engine, the steam turbine came. Oldest heat engine, steam turbine. Along with this is also the newest format. Much of the modification, much of the research are till date now going on this steam turbine, newest format of heat engine. The sole motto, the sole objective, the sole concentration, why I am calling it as a heat engine, steam turbine, and the first sight it may be you may not be able to acquainted with this as whether the steam turbine will be a heat engine or not. It's no problem, it can be a heat engine, as this heat energy is converted to mechanical energy, so this is a heat engine, no problem. Okay, so now we will go to the internal part, or within this what are the sections we are going to cover in case of this your steam turbine. So steam turbine, here if I will go for a bigger diagram, here it will be super high pressure and superheated steam, it will be in, and the steam will exit here. There will be a shaft coupling, we will extract work here, and inside this, for a basic, suppose it is a impulse type. Impulse type steam turbine, there are two rows of blades. One is called as fixed blade, or this we call as nozzle section, and this one is called as moving blades, or this called as rotor. Okay, so all together this is called as a single stage, one stage. A single stage means it comprises of one set of nozzle rings and another set of moving blade or rotors. So we will also in later portion the efficiency associated with this nozzle is being given as eta n. The efficiency associated with this rotor or moving blades, it will be eta b. The efficiency for this whole section, it will be eta stage. Later on I will tell you how to calculate these things. And now you just get acquainted that these are the things we have to go for. We have to find out efficiency of nozzle, we have to find out efficiency of blade, we have to find out efficiency, stage efficiency. Okay. So then we will move to the first part of your steam turbine, that is a nozzle section. This nozzle is of converging diverging type. Naturally this nozzle is used in steam turbines, converging, diverging. As the name suggests, the cross section of this nozzle is also like this. This is the converging portion and this is the diverging portion. This is in. In is being given as a subscript I. This is exit. Exit is being given as a subscript E. Okay. This is your, just I am simply briefly writing converging, and this section is diverging to attain very high velocity. Somewhere here you can say this Mach number is less than 1. Here at this throat Mach number is approximately equals to 1. At this exit point Mach number is approximately more than 1, more than the velocity of sound. In some classes if you take, we will take on nozzle, then I can deliver you how this Mach number, how this flow inside this nozzle, this is getting. Okay, so now our objective is to find out how this heat energy is being converted into mechanical energy. So at this inlet we provide high pressure superheated steam, and at this exit we are getting out very high velocity, high kinetic energy steam. So the generic steady flow energy equation, we can write it as a generic. Why is generic? Because it can be applicable to all control volumes. Then we can derive the particular one. What is the generic steady flow energy equation? It is something like this: Q dot minus W dot is equal to M dot whole into H exit minus H in plus G whole into Z exit minus Z I plus V E square minus V I square divided by 2. for a nozzle, it is insulated and the flow is very fast in case of your nozzle. A fast process in thermodynamics with marginal error is considered to be adiabatic process, reversible. It's a reversible adiabatic process. If this friction on unaccounted heat loss are being neglected, so this process is an isentropic flow, reversible adiabatic flow in case of a nozzle. For this isentropic flow across the nozzle, this heat transfer across the surface, this has to be zero. Along with, nozzle is neither a work producing device nor a work consuming device. That's why this W dot has to be zero also. Along with this, the potential energy level at inlet point and the potential energy at exit, they are more or less very much same. So change in potential energy across the exit and across inlet, that can be neglected, or this will be zero. Okay, so now you can see the only terms we are we are having with, that is your enthalpy, change in enthalpy and change in kinetic energy. So it will be like this: m dot whole into vi square minus ve square divided by 2 is equal to m dot whole into he minus hi. And in comparison to this exit velocity, this inlet velocity is very less, so vi can be safely ignored. Mass also cancels out. Then this ve will be 2 whole into hi minus he and square root of this. One important thing you must take care for the units here. Velocity has to be expressed. If you want to express positively, if you will go for the unit meter per second, then these two things, they must have to be expressed in terms of joule per kg. Many students, they commit mistake, they convert it kilojoule per kg, but joule per kg is congruent. This is homogeneous with meter per second. Why? Because you go for this joule per kg, I can express it as kg into meter per second square, Newton meter into 1 upon kg. Okay, so this cancels out. This is meter square per second square. Square root upon this will be meter per second. So positively, whenever you are using the steady flow energy equation for a nozzle, the enthalpy must be in terms of joule per kg, the base units, and you will get a velocity in terms of meter per second. Then if we will go for the rotor section, rotor or moving blade of steam turbine. Okay, so first thing, we will have to develop the velocity triangle for the steam turbine. Then only we will be able to calculate the force, the power developed by these blades. So for this, I am telling you much of the velocity triangles, much procedures have given. I am giving you a more students friendly, users friendly approach. You try to learn this, memorize this, because it is according to the natural process. The procedure I will tell you, this is very much natural, so it will be easy you to memorize. Okay, so here suppose two things at a certain instant I am taking. This is the shape of the blade, impulse steam turbine blade. Okay, so steam has to be come here and it has to be strike. Due to the reaction action, it moves, and after some instant of time, as it is moving, you will see this will take this will come to the position here. Okay. Why I am making it dotted and making it solid? Because at a later stage, this will be, the blade will be at this position. That's why it is being solid and it is here dotted. Okay. This is the first step. This is at instant. Suppose at time t is equal to 0, at time t is equal to 1 unit. Then we have to take some reference. What is the reference? Reference for our inlet velocity triangle. And this will be the reference for exit velocity triangle. Okay. Reference for inlet velocity triangle, and this will be reference for exit velocity triangle. And this is moving with a blade velocity u, peripheral velocity, or we can call it as a blade velocity u. Okay, so the first we will approach the number one procedure. The first thing I will go for, it will be inlet velocity triangle. Okay, in case of your inlet velocity triangle, what we call this jet has to be provided, or the steam jet has to be provided from the nozzle at an absolute velocity of v1, and it will be so much angle, as a result of which it will come inside this, along with this will give some momentum. So that's why the absolute velocity of incoming jet, they have got two components. Okay, so if I will start here, how these two components, this whirl component and this flow components, just I will show you. Okay, so let it be this tip, this must be seen inlet tip, and this is the exit tip. This is absolute velocity v1. v1 is the absolute velocity of steam at incoming velocity triangle, and here in this midway also the blade has moved u, so this is vectorial approach u. Okay, so with which this velocity the steam is getting inside this steam turbine, it will be relative velocity. This relative velocity is VR1. For inlet we are providing 1. So V1 you tried, this is the absolute velocity of steam jet. U, the peripheral velocity at the inlet. VR1, the relative velocity of the steam, it strikes the inlet portion of the turbine blade. Okay. Then the angle subtended by this V1 at this periphery, this is called as, because this absolute velocity is coming from the nozzle, this will be nozzle angle. So for nozzle angle we will give some subscription, that is alpha. And for this relative velocity, this is associated with the blade, this will be given a nomenclature as theta. Okay, so number one procedure over. Number one is inlet velocity triangle. This is v1, and by the time it has moved certain velocity, so u, then according to the vectorial summation, this will be the vr1. Then as the steam smoothly glides over these turbine blades, I have started from this dotted here, but here I will go for this exit point here, because during some elapse of time this blade has come to this point. Okay, so as the steam smoothly glides over this blade, it will move out at an exit relative velocity, that is VR2. I am using blue for this exit velocity, so this will be VR2. And by this is the notation of peripheral velocity u, and this will be here v2. The same notation, relative velocity with which steam is exiting from this exit point, and u is the direction of the peripheral velocity, it is along this, and velocity v2 is the absolute velocity at which steam is getting exit from the tip of the rotor blade. Okay, then the angles we have to provide. This vr2 is associated with vr1, so these are the blade angles. So this blade angle, this will be your, if it is theta, then obviously this will be phi. Then this is the v1 are associated with nozzle alpha, then here it will be v2, this angle will be your beta. Okay, now our task is to find out the whirl component and flow component of this absolute velocity. Okay, so if I draw a right angle triangle, then this will be VW1 whirl component, and this will be VF1. Likewise for here, this V2 has got a flow component. This is the flow component VF2, and this one is your whirl component VW2. But this velocity triangle we will not use for your mathematical calculation. We will use a combined velocity triangle. We will use a combined velocity triangle. How to make this combined velocity triangle? On common platform of peripheral velocity u. That I will develop from this diagram. You see how I am developing. This is the trick you must have to remember. So I will draw a common baseline. From some arbitrary point, I will strike out. This is u. Peripheral velocity, blade velocity u. How to calculate this u? I will tell you in mathematical portions of this. Okay. Then I have to superimpose this inlet velocity triangle and this exit velocity triangle upon this common platform. Okay. So you see, this will be from this tail section, this V1 is coming, this is the U, so this is the tail and this is the head. So here it will V1. Very simple, this one, V1, and this vectorial summation, this will be VR1. Okay, over. And the approach is something like that. It will be, the concept is something like this: V1 minus U is equal to VR1. You go for this V1, then this U taken in opposite order, this will be VR1. Then the angle will go on later on. Then I will go to the exit velocity triangle upon this common platform. You can see here this is U also, and at this portion this is also the peripheral velocity. Here this is also U, or this is the peripheral velocity U. Okay. So simply this has to be drawn, or this peripheral velocity has to be come upon this platform, U platform. Okay, how it is coming? You see, if this will be the direction of U. Okay, so from this head portion it is VR2. Okay, so here I am drawing Br2. Then u plus Br2, the vectorial summation is V2, absolute velocity at exit point. So this is taken in opposite order. This will be V2. Our next step is to give angles. This relative velocity, they are associated with blade. So this has to be given blade angle. Blade angles at inlet is theta. Blade angle at exit is phi. So it will be blade angle at inlet, it is theta. Blade angle at exit, this is phi. Likewise, the absolute velocity jet, the incoming, it is making an angle here. This is alpha and this is beta. Okay. Now we will find out the whirl component and the flow component. So if this velocity v1 the whirl component, or this is also the tangential component, this is Vw1 and this is your flow component at inlet, or this is Vf1 and the direction are something like this. At exit point also the whirl component and flow components are this is Vw2 and this portion is Vf2. And this will be the direction. This is the combined velocity triangle. We have to extract from this portion to here. Okay. So you remember both this, and we will use in problem solving, this one will be used, not this one. This will, we can go for some graphical approach, problem solving. And here this vectorial summation I can write u plus Vr2 gives rise to V2. You can use both graphical approach or we can go for mathematical approach. Mathematical or trigonometry. Okay, upon this diagram. Then we will develop some mathematical relations. The first relation I want to develop, it is your force. Here as the steam is getting inside this, you can see as the steam is getting inside this and it is moving out like this. Okay, the steam is getting inside and moving like this. So as the steam moves out, because here this is a momentum transfer, the momentum transfer will not take place due to the action. And what is the action? Because the action is the steam is getting impinged here. Unless the jet is being deflected, if the jet is going, it will develop no work. But once you put an obstruction above this or on the path of this jet, then this will develop some power. So this is the obstruction. So here it is moving, it is striking out. As this is the action, the reaction, it is moving out with a velocity u. Now we have to find out what much of the force it is developing. That is our sole objective. Okay, so force on rotor blades, it will be your, I can write it as rate of change of momentum. Okay, suppose this is the x direction, rate of change of momentum along x direction. So this will be Fx in terms of Newton. This will be change in momentum, rate of change of momentum. This will be mass flow rate of steam. The unit in terms of kg per second. Rate of change of momentum along this will be the whirl component, be change in the whirl components. So this will be Vw1 minus, and Vw2 is in taken opposite order, so this is Vw2. This is again in terms of meter per second. So kg meter per second square, this is again Newton. So Fx, force developed along this x direction, mass flow rate of steam whole into Vw1 plus Vw2. Okay, the objective is now to find out or to go how to get this power developed. After this force, we have to move this to power developed. Power developed by rotor blades P is equal to the force along x direction and how much it is moving along this x direction, or the velocity u. So this power will be m dot s whole into Vw1 plus Vw2 into u. Or we can also go for another approach. This power also can be expressed as P is equal to twisting moment into angular velocity in rotational dynamics. This is the expression of power. Okay, so this I can write P is equal to the twisting moment, force into radius upon which it is acting, into angular velocity omega. So this will be 2 pi n by 60. N is the RPM at which this blade moves. Okay, so this P F I can write in place of this m dot s whole into Vw1 plus Vw2 into R into 2 pi n by 60. This 2 pi n by 60, what is this? This is omega. Or I can write it as m dot s whole into Vw1 plus Vw2 into omega into R. This is the linear velocity or tangential velocity u. Since linear velocity u is equal to omega into R. You can use either of this formula. So both are the same. This format of equation can be used and this format of equation can be used, or this format can be used. Okay. So this is the power developed by the rotor blades. Next, we will move to axial thrust. Axial thrust on rotor blades. This axial thrust is not favorable. This is not we do not want, because this will develop, this will wear and tear this bearing. But this axial component is also needed, because if we do not get this axial component, the steam will not getting inside. We have to require this Vw1 along with require this Vf1. Okay, and this due to this Vf1, due to this change in magnitude of Vf1 and Vf2, there will be a axial thrust on the bearing over which these blades are mounted. So axial thrust will be your mass flow rate of steam into Vf1 minus Vf2. Okay, in terms of Newton. Okay, over. So the two of the things, one the power associated with VW1 that we have found out, and bearing thrust or axial thrust also we have calculated. Next we will move to efficiency. The first efficiency, you must remember that portion I have told you. This is the nozzle. Here heat energy is being supplied, and here we have extracted, or at these points this is the kinetic energy. So efficiency of this nozzle, one is your desired output divided by required. This term must be there, desired and required. What we desire? We desire this kinetic energy. What do we, desired output is kinetic energy. The input or requirement is your heat energy. So in terms of this, I can write it as this nozzle. For this nozzle, I can write it out. This kinetic energy, let it be VE. We are using a symbol VE. VE square exit of 2 divided by what much of the heat energy or the heat content. How this velocity energy we are getting? This is upon this delta H, conversion of delta H. And what is delta H? Delta H is HI minus HE. So this will be HI minus HE, enthalpy drop, or this you can use it. Okay, this is the efficiency of nozzle. This in terms of meter square per second square. This in terms of joule per kg. This is your nozzle efficiency. Whenever we will solve a problem, we will see it out. Okay. Then we will move to blade efficiency. The blade portion is here. The input is kinetic energy. The output is W dot turbine. Okay. So blade efficiency will be again the same thing. Desired output divided by required input. So blade efficiency will be desired output means power developed by turbine, or I can write power developed by rotor, and required input is power associated with kinetic energy. Okay, so this eta blade will be mass flow rate of steam whole into VW1 plus VW2 into U divided by m dot steam V exit, and this V exit for nozzle is equal to, this will be the inlet 1 for steam turbine and 2 for, so Vi is equal to V1, so let it be V1 square divided by 2. So eta blade will be 2 whole into VW1 plus VW2 into U divided by V1 square eta plate. Then if we will go for the stage efficiency, this diagram you have to make for the stage nozzle person, this is the rotor portion, and all together this is a stage. And what is the incoming? The output is your W dot T. The input is heat energy. So eta stage desired output divided by required input. So I can place in terms of desired output power developed by turbine blades, or this will be m dot s whole into VW1 plus VW2 into U, and required input is heat energy or enthalpy drop. So this is okay. In terms of mathematical notation, I can write m dot s VW1 plus VW2 into U, and here this is m dot s whole into Hi minus He, or this will be VW1 plus VW2 into U divided by Hi minus He. Okay, then at the last stage we will go for eta overall. Eta overall is equal to, we can go for stage efficiency into mechanical efficiency. Whenever we will solve problem, we will see these applications. Okay, understood? So what we have seen for today, we have developed some mathematics. We have known about the introduction of the steam turbine, why it is called as a heat engine, and the portions inside this, a nozzle ring and a rotor ring we have developed. We have developed mathematical relation for nozzle. We have developed mathematical relation for these rotor blades. We have found out the force and power associated with the rotor blades. We have calculated these efficiencies. Okay, and this I have told you, this is the impulse type of turbine. And naturally the classification is impulse type and reaction type. In impulse type there will be no variation in pressure. Okay, in case of your nozzle, that you have seen that it was written high pressure, high temperature. So high pressure and high temperature steam, it gives its enormous energy. That pressure and temperature, this energy is being converted to kinetic energy, and once their total pressure energy is being converted, and inside this rotor blade there will be no variation in pressure. If there will be no variation in pressure, this will be an impulse type. And in case of a reaction type steam turbine, this variation of pressure will be taking place in some stage manners. Okay, so in the next class we will see some classifications of how this is impulse and reaction turbine, and we will see, or we will study this impulse and reaction turbine in a context with compounding of steam turbines, velocity compounding and pressure compounding. That will be our last class on your steam turbine, and if it will be possible, if we will take a problem, I will take another more class. Okay, thank you.